Anyway, everybody set up perfect conservation, benefit all sentient beings, chief enlightenment, as soon as possible, maybe next year. Okay? Then we go to the concrete place. Not much other than talk, but now everybody knows. Anyway, Buddhism always talk about first good motivation, then end good dedication. Anyway,
so we'll go through from where we stopped last time.
And then yet upon me, what?
So the no which is abandoned, the deluded obstruction, is the definition of the path of noble learning, right?
And then yet said,
so the obstructions, there are two types, right? Deluded obstruction and obstruction to omniscience.
And yet said the concept,
so the deluded obstructions are like grasping at a person as existing self-sufficient or substantially.
And she said, they tangible looking by that.
So the obstruction to omniscience, or obstruction to knowledge, is the imprint left by the grasping at true existence.
And tangible and Shibati should mess like so.
According to the Prasangika Madhyamika's view, there is no obstruction to knowledge that is Shibaju. So there's no obstruction to knowledge that is a consciousness.
And the tangible and Shibati should yes.
But according to the Sautrantika Madhyamika view, there is obstruction to knowledge, which is a consciousness.
And the matter was dancer, the should have
according to the Sautrantika Madhyamika's view, grasping a true existence is the obstruction to knowledge.
And tangible dancer should have
so according to the Prasangika Madhyamika's view, the grasping at true existence is not obstruction to knowledge, rather it is deluded obstruction. So when, there is a different way of positing the obstructions according to the different views or different schools of thoughts.
And 강사가 취지다 이 단위를 그랬어. 강사가 단사도 공부가 되는 거죠. 같이 취지다 해야되니 부모 되는 거죠.
So grasping at the person as existing truly, or grasping at a phenomenon as existing truly. So the person is the grasping at true existence of a person is grasping at a person as existing truly. And grasping at phenomena as existing truly, it would be grasping at the aggregates as existing truly.
오다다 되는 전담과 시대 말아와도 다마 정말 연구를 해서 봐. 관심마치 단지를 미세서 그런 간지 시접이 시바이 위해서 시접 세가지 아니 대해서 샤를 봐자. 달라고 그래서
so there's there are different ways of positing the delusion. I mean the obstructions, according to different tenets, different schools of thought, and according to Prasangika Madhyamika's view, there is no obstruction to knowledge that is consciousness. So the obstruction to knowledge here is the imprint left by grasping at true existence.
Okay, 다들 다 여쭤보면 전부 만나고 되니까데 아니 단내 랑지 받아 단도 강가를 보면서 가지 아니 강사가 나한테도 제바대 따라가고 그래서 강사가 나한테 말이 다 강사가 나한테 니접 대방에 뽕하더라 아니 그 뽕하는 거더라 다 다시 말하고
This is the definition of the path of normal learning, is that you know that has abandoned that deluded obstruction or deluded obstructions. And so the deluded obstruction, according to this view, the substantive meticulous view, it will be grasping at the self of a person, grasping at the self of a person, and that will be the deluded obstruction.
what that in a Chinata della Nintujiman, Rantajiman, Tajiman, some years ago.
So just as others, and this one also has three, right? Path of normal, hero's path of normal learning, the surgical is path of normal learning, and the Mahayana path of normal learning.
I did like that. Tasman is at the time, the Geshe is the Karjani Tommy, Karjani John, Geshe. 아니 총람 대비사 타와찬다 아니 취미가 대지를 혹시발에 가서 총람을 해서
So now the third one is the synonyms or mutually inclusive ones, right? So it says path of accumulation, grounds of faith, compatible with deliberation, and clear realization of doctrine are mutually inclusive.
가제 수도 실력의 차이가 갖다 가지고 지발에 직장에서
So they are given different names because of their functions, otherwise they all have same meanings. So just like we say, functioning thing, product or impermanence and so forth. So they all have different names but same meaning. So the why it's called, the path of accumulation, why it's called ground of faith, will come in the section where it talks about the etymology.
Okay.
The second, this is the path of preparation, branch of definite discrimination, compatible with the definite discrimination and the clear realization of meaning are mutually inclusive. And then the path of seeing, clear realization of truth and exalted knower in the continuum of one on the path of seeing are mutually inclusive. The path of meditation, subsequent clear realization and exalted knower of one on the path of meditation are mutually inclusive. The path of normal learning and exalted knower of an arhat are mutually inclusive. Through this one should know the vehicles individually. So the knower within the continuum of the Bodhisattva on the path of accumulation, who has gone through, who has proceeded the arhatship of the heroes, you have to say it's the path of normal learning, right? That is the path of normal learning because it is in the knower, exalted knower of an arhat, right? If it's arhat, it's the exalted knower of arhat. If it is exalted knower of arhat, then it has to be path of normal learning. So it sounds a little strange, right? So we can call also the path of normal learning, the path of normal learning, because it is exalted knower that has abandoned the afflictive obstructions.
다 람치키 람 차가 다시 수면하면서 아니 뭐라면 코란 안 때 다시 수면하면서 아니 뭐라면 그래서
And also you can call it part of the learning because you have completed all the parts of that vehicle.
어떻게 납죠? 다 다시 오는 거래서
So anyway, etymology will come later.
다 다시는 다 년대 총화 취지에서 제가 총화 취지인데 다와 토시에서 속소 소리 남기 동보임 짓들이 되죠.
Now it says here, there is a reason for calling the subject the hearer's path of accumulation, the path of accumulation. The reason it is referred to in that way is because it is the first of the paths where one gathers accumulations for the sake of attaining liberation. So is there certainty, or is it necessary to this the etymology or not?
다와 토비시도 쏙쏙베가 다 람람한 거지. 동보대나 총하는 거 그래서 람 말아가 있나? 다와 토비시도 쏙쏙베 통화이나? 쏙쏙베 통화이나?
So if you call it, it is the first, first whereon gathers accumulation for the sake of attaining liberation. Instead, and you just skip the paths. It says where you skip the path and you just say it is the first where one gathers accumulation for the sake of attaining liberation. If you say that, then is it necessary to be the path of accumulation?
I would say you can accumulate merit for the sake of liberation, but not have entered the path.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, same as us.
So yeah, we are accumulating merit, right, for the first time, for the sake of liberation, attaining liberation.
단지 자신들라 처음에도 처음에는 때문에 처음도 처음 말했잖아요. 처음이나 매자.
So if it is a path of accumulation, is it necessary to be first of the path, where one gathers accumulation for the sake of attaining liberation?
Yes, no. No. We said no. Then we said no. We said yes.
Is that the question again?
It's also
If it is a path of accumulation, is it necessary to be the first of the paths? Is it necessary to be the first? If it is a path of accumulation, is it necessary to be the first of the paths where one gathers accumulations for the sake of attaining liberation?
Yes.
We said yes.
I see.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Then
Yes.
yes. Okay. No.
I think maybe no.
Okay. No. Okay. Good.
He's right?
다음에 저도 제제제도 yes. 니들 다 좀 또박은 좀 샹선 총화대에서 총화를 왔어.
So the Bodhisattva on the path of accumulation, right, who has preceded the arhatship of hearers, is the path of accumulation? Is it a path of accumulation or not?
When?
Bodhisattva on the path of accumulation?
Bodhisattva on the
The
path.
question
He has
is-
completed the arhatship of the path.
That's right.
Is it a path of accumulation?
Yes. Is it or not? No?
아,
No.
really?
No, I don't know.
You have to
They passed through that already. Passed through
그
that.
총화 들어왔어.
Yeah, but it's in the Mahayana path of accumulation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So Mahayana path of accumulation, but not part of the accumulation. It's not on the path of accumulation, but just on the Mahayana path of accumulation. Is that what you're saying?
뭘 가져왔어? 이제 다와톱사를 왔어.
I thought once you pass through the path of accumulation, no matter what,
No, but you pass through the path of accumulation of the heroes,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Then you went to when you
Went
achieve
all
all the way up,
yeah.
all the way up. Then you now enter into the Mahayana path of accumulation.
Yeah,
So now you are in the beginning of the path of accumulation of the Mahayana vehicle.
yeah.
So are you in the path of accumulation or not?
You just said we were, so I guess we are.
You are, right?
Yeah.
Because you are on the Mahayana path of
Yeah,
accumulation.
yeah.
So if you are on the
Yeah.
Mahayana path of accumulation, then you are on the path of
Right,
accumulation.
yeah.
But then the problem is why they can say in the definition that it's the first.
So this is what it means. This is not a definition; it's etymology, right?
Yeah.
So if it is etymology, it's not necessary to be necessary for each
Yeah.
other.
This doesn't have to be sound, right? It can be loose.
That's right.
Yeah.
근데 처음으로 다 처음 와서 대 타와토비시다 소소하면 토마토 말고 타와토잖아 와. 내가 자세히 처음 생각을 했어. 자세히
So it's just etymology. It's just this is why it's called like that, but it's not necessary to be like that. It's not necessary to be like that, but it's just called like that.
가르쳐놨나 꼬대라 그랬어.
In a simple word, that's what it means. So why is it called this? Oh, because of that, this is called this. It's called this, but it's not necessarily to be this.
내가 콘이 따라 뭐는 콘이 그랬어.
So they were right. So it's like somebody's called a hero. It's called a hero because of this is this, not necessarily that person is hero. Just like that.
저도 하고서 그때 처음 저 하고서 그랬어.
Do you understand what we were talking about earlier?
그래서 뭐 다른 미래서 와. 다 간제는 소나를 했나 다 아니 저당에 시르당 송 시자시 말자 다 타와치 투비체다 아니 조사비다 람지 통하는 다좀 람라 슈베가 다람 통하디 말자 내가 그래서 와요.
And it's called the first of the path because that's the first of the path, right? The path of accumulation. So when you enter into the vehicle, so that will be the first path. That's why it's called the first of the paths.
대체 다 제가 친구도 생각해서 친구도 지금 진짜 대 추수로지 또 투심지 때나가 비 까이지 되다 지금.
And then it's the path of accumulation is also called the clear realization of doctrine, right? And the reason it is referred to in that way is because it is a period in which one principally resolves the topics of the three doctrines through hearing and reflection.
오늘까지 다 저거 투바다 다 저거 투중 거 제가 저거 때나 보면 내가 이메일 들어왔어.
갈라서 숨나다.
투심이.
숨도 갈래 담가 숨.
친구들이 이제 추심이 듣는
최숨도.
추심나 대화성이 이러와 하고 말해 추심이 듣는 투심.
담가 숨래. 최숨세.
추심세 가리 다 담가 가져가 마지 가지. 저 소라지 듣는 얘기는데 저거다 저거 때나 보면 내가 이메일 진짜 이제 내가 세그리스타 배셔가 되나 이래. 소라지 듣다 되는 거는 저 도좀 때나 보면 내가 이메일다.
So it's a period in which one principally resolves the topics of the three doctrines through hearing and reflection. I'm not sure about what are the three doctrines, but this is through the hearing and the reflection. So any kind of doctrine, the result results through hearing and contemplation. And then some other texts I have seen that it says that because it's principally resolving, through the word among the two, the word and meaning, principally resolving through the word. That's why it's called the clear realization of doctrine.
다 대회사 이제 대소 영화는 기비 내가지 가면 싫었어.
And the reason why it's called the grounds of path, grounds of faith, ground of faith, this is the reason is it is referred to in that way is because it is a path during which one becomes skilled primarily in the five faculties such as faith.
아니 타와차듯이 이제 여자 비빈 고대에 타와를 해서 여자 끝없는 고대에 다 타위 차로 해서 대토바나 제선되면 내가지 가면
And it's referred to in that way because it is the path. So there's a reason for referring to it as compatible with the liberation. Referred to it, as referred to it in that way is because it is a path during which one acts in a way compatible with the attainment of the fallen paths. So that's liberation, that is the true cessation in which one has abandoned the afflictive obscurations, and the liberation in which is a true cessation of having abandoned the acquired afflictive obstructions. So the liberation, is like being liberated, from cyclic existence. So it also abandoned the acquired afflictive obstructions, afflictive obstructions, the intellectual afflictive obstructions, right? Obscurations. So that is usually abandoned in the path of seeing. So, but it's similar to that. That's why it's called that. So in between the path of accumulation and the path of seeing, there's the path of preparation, right? So if there were no path of preparation, then after the path of seeing, so the path of accumulation will be path of seeing, right? And then it says there is a reason for referring to the subject hero's path of preparation as the path of preparation. The reason it is referred to in this way is because it is a path during which one prepares for the perceptual realization of the Four Truths. So this is just etymology, right? There's no pervasive, but it's just because there is also part of accumulation. You can say, it's also preparing, prepares for the perceptual realization of the Four Truths.
And then
and the reason for referring to it as the clear realization of meaning, is the reason it is referred to in this way is because it is a path during which one draws forth experience of either level, coarse or subtle, of subtlessness, which is the meaning of the excellent sayings that arise through meditation. So during the path of accumulation, it's called the clear realization of the doctrine, clear realization of doctrine, and then here in the path of preparation, it says the clear realization of meaning. So because it primarily establishes the meaning among the two, the word and meaning. It mainly resolves to the word. To the meaning. That's why it's called path of preparation. The clear realization of meaning. So it says the substance, which is the meaning of the excellent sayings that arise through meditation. So anything that we call that arise through meditation is when you analyze analyze on an object. So when you develop that wisdom analyzing the object, at that time you have developed the meditation. The wisdom arising through the meditation.
정말 다 돈이 또 되게 와지고 아니 대검네 돈이라면 그 검증으로 남게 와나 다 정말 정말 바로 있어요. 다들 얼마 이런 것이 다들 거
So during the path of accumulation, you realize emptiness, and then you meditate on emptiness. So whenever you realize, whenever you develop or generate the mind arising from the meditation, or wisdom arising from meditation, then that time you move up into the path of preparation. So that's the etymology of the path of preparation. You don't have any doubts there, right?
You realize the emptiness in the path of accumulation? Is it correct?
저랑도 돈이 또 그래서 그래.
단데 땅도 단지를 하셔야 다 돈이 되지도 또 되게 왔어요.
Yeah, in the manner of meaning generality.
So what was that?
And in the manner of meaning generality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just I wondered because here they're saying like arisen from meditation for the path of preparation.
Yes.
But then in the previous one it was like the 투성기 댐업에.
투성기 때는 나 단다. 전화가 내가서 강사 담에 찾았어요. 왔어요. 강사가 담에 찾아 때문에 아니 전화 투성기 때는 내가 그래서 또 저들이 다 전화가 내가서 되게 제자 강사 담에 찾아 강사를 딱 공중이 못한 거예요. 그래서 저 공중이와 맨날 전화가 내가 다 또매백까지 말했어. 나 저즉 되는 거지. 아니 전화가 내가 다 되게 제자 저거 때문에 공중이와 되는 그래서 남의 잘했을 때 다 둘다 맞아 저거. 아니 다져도 선택을나 남의 나빠.
So you can apply that to all the paths, right? You can apply that. So among the word and meaning, so that which establishes mainly the meaning, the word is the path of accumulation, and that which establishes mainly the path of the meaning of that scripture that explains about the southern course of the selflessness.
지금도 대니 또다 들때 봐봐지. 이나 대 마페가 많이 봐지. 저는 좋아하는 거들고.
So among the two, the word and meanings, that mainly establishes the word, but doesn't mean that it doesn't refer to the meaning at all, but mainly a result to the word.
진짜가 다시 되나 지침을 가끔 시도하는 뉴스로.
So that's this. The etymology is in the first chapter, of the ornament of realization, composed by the commentary to the ornament of realization, composed by Jinchu Yansen.
Okay. So in the path of accumulation, it's the wisdom. They realize emptiness arising from the word, and then they move up to the path of preparation when wisdom arises from the meaning.
저런 것을 돈이 돈을 가서 토중기 시라고 돈이 또 그랬어. 아니 검증 가서 저런 것을 때는데 또 검증이 시라고 돈이 또 그랬어.
맞는 거. 전화마디가 또다 두성이가 세세게 했어요. 전화마디가. 근데 공유로 남겨와나니 고정은 바로 그랬어요. 전화마디 처럼 그랬어요.
그러니까 저런 것을 돈이 떠야 돼. 토중기 시라고 또 그랬어.
일단 두성으로 두성이는 두성으로지. 다 되게 공중이와 남겨와나니 전화 바로 그랬어요.
검증이 시라더라.
고정 시라는데 또 전화만 처럼.
또 돈이 또 내가.
돈이 또
공시라.
공중용화. 공중 시합사다. 남겨와나 또 전화 바로.
어디 가서 토중 시라고 또 그러 돈이 돼.
다 대판이라고 도중 시합 도중 시합은 라이다.
또 시라도 더 받아 주면 시라 줘요. 못 받아 주면 시라.
대판이 도중 시합 나고서 빠진 나가 된다고
Yeah, not quite sure, but yeah, something like that maybe. The wisdom arising from the hearing and contemplation realizes the emptiness in the path of accumulation, and then there's the wisdom arising from meditation that realizes emptiness in the path of preparation. And so there's no certainty that it it refers to both of both sides at the same time. But yeah, this is it's just etymology. It's called like that. It's not necessary to be like that.
또 두번의 정시라, 또 고만의 정시라서 그렇게.
So you do a lot of hearings, studies and contemplations, and you through that then you develop wisdom. And then you do a lot of meditation. Through meditating again and again, then you develop that wisdom. So those are called wisdom arising from meditation, or wisdom arising from the hearing and contemplation.
Principally from hearing, right?
Principally
Principally from hearing for the one, hearing and reflection for the one, and principally from meditation for the other. But he's saying like not exclusively.
Yeah, just generally that's.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
뭐든지 담에도 시작한 것 같아. 시도 수납지 두 번은 시험도 잘하고.
So even the wisdom realizing emptiness or selflessness, they all come from the wisdom arising from contemplation and hearing, right?
다 대지. 수납지 듣는다 말이죠. 다 용지, 인지 연합지, 인지 찬다지로 다 야자 남아부터 이실랑 인지 시절이 다 용어 치료점이 시작하더라고요. 봐. 이때 예대랑 그 레버티비 야자 남아부터 이시지 이지 예능이 비지도 있다 지금. 그래서 다 용어 치료점이 무슨 시작하는 야자 남아부터 이시다 돼.
Understand? Got it. 너는 전화 가서 알아?
네, 전화 가서 전화 들어와. 전화지, 인제 연화지, 인제 잔다 때문에 되지로 와. 나는 아주 강조될 때 다시 전화로 들어와. 아니 대방에 통으로 들어와. 아니 들어와 대응으로 들어와. 다 인제 연화도 인제 잔다. 아니 대응으로도.
And so there is a reason it is referred to as the branching of definite discrimination. Branch of definite discrimination. The reason it is referred to in this way is because the non-conceptual exalted wisdom of meditative equipoise is called definite discrimination, and it is the path of preparation. In it, the path of preparation is the actual substantial cause of the non-conceptual exalted wisdom in meditative equipoise, that is its effect. So here he's talking about mainly the fourth level of the path of preparation, right, which is the supramundane doctrine, or supramundane level of the path of preparation.
간지 영어 치료치료 20대 태자동안 발전은 이게 얘네들 해서.
And so anyway, so the fourth level of the path of preparation, the supramundane path of preparation, is the actual the cause, the substantial cause, of the path of seeing.
다 들어가는데 영어 치료치료랑 이제 자동으로 하다 영어랑 이제 자동으로 하게 됐어. 근데 일단 여자 넘어부터 위시든 인지 시작했어. 대단 차들부터 지금 다 되게 넘어부터 위시대요. 다시 통화야 하고 들어왔어.
And so there is a reason for referring to it as compatible with definite discrimination. The reason it is referred to in this way is because it is compatible with the non-conceptual exalted wisdom of meditative equipoise that is called definite discrimination.
아니 대지 다 대지는 통합 받지만 됐다고 하면 인지의 시집이 제대로 그리고 단 여자 남부터 통합 받지만 어찌 대랑 인지라 그래서 가지라나 통통하게 인계버린 집이 라미 비슷하지 그래서.
And so there is a reason for referring to, for instance, the uninterrupted part of the Mahayana path of seeing as definite discrimination. The reason it is referred to in this way is because it is a path that definitely discriminated from that which is to be abandoned on the path of seeing.
그래서 가지 통합 받지만 어디다 통합 봐야 내가 제심값으로 제심이.
So the uninterrupted path of the Mahayana path of seeing, is the path that is actually abandoning, that actually acts, to abandon the delusions, or the obstructions, to be abandoned on the path of seeing, right? What are the obstructions, to be abandoned on the path of seeing? Huh?
Intellectual.
그래?
Kunta?
Yeah, she said Kurukulla.
야, 끈다. 얘는 끈다. 나한테 끈다. 끈다라 그러지. 그지?
So yeah, intellectual, right? Intellectual, innate among the innate and intellectual. So it's the intellectual. That is the value.
다시 한들이 돈 왔다 보지. 돈이 넘치지 그때 내중에서 돈이 내까지 가면 지금 다 지금 싫었다. 가지. 덴바시에 가세 고사가 달라고 돈이에서 돈이 내까지 해서 돈이 내까지 가면 봤어. 연락해서 봤어.
And so there is a reason for calling the subject like the Bodhisattva path of seeing, path of seeing. The reason it is referred to in this way is because it is a path during which the four truths are perceptually seen.
다들 덴바시에서 나는 덴바시랑 도와서 봐지.
So here they are called the four truths, right?
좋아. 아니 덴바시에서도 돈이 내까지 가는 거니까 그래서 한 돈을 받지 말아도 될 거래. 누구한테 만나서 또 만나면 되겠어. 그래서 오늘 도발하는 거 있었어.
Correct.
지금 돈을 받지 말아도 다 누구한테 만나서 또 내까지 가면 되겠어.
And says the reason it is represented in this way is because it is the path during which the four truths are perceptually seen, right? And so it says that during the uninterrupted path, the minor path of seeing, you see the four truths perceptually. So that means all the truths, right? So during the path of during the uninterrupted path of the minor path of seeing, does one see the true suffering perceptually? Does one see the true suffering perceptually or not?
You have to careful, think careful, okay?
Perceptually?
Yeah.
You mean
Path of seeing.
it's the ngonto, right?
Ngonto, yeah.
Directly.
Directly or perceptually. Yeah, this is what it's saying, yeah.
Yes, no, yes,
No.
no, then no,
Yes.
yes, no,
Why-
yes.
What's the question again? Can you say the question
The
again?
uninterrupted path of the minor path of seeing sees the true suffering directly or perceptually?
No,
No?
no. There should be an equipoise on emptiness, isn't it?
그래서 또 말해봤어. Okay? How many people have no? She said no. You are no. They are yes. People know that. 근데 다시 다 되면 다 다른데 다시 돼. 그래 돈을 받지 말라고 다시라도 씨 땅은 돈을 다시나.
So this etymology, is it the etymology of the uninterrupted path of the minor path of seeing, or is it the minor path of seeing?
Just the
Right.
type of scene.
씨 땅 돈을 받으다. 씨 돈을
발전이라면 이렇게 던어버렸어.
돈을 받았어.
네.
Which one?
So is it an uninterrupted part of the path of seeing, or the path of seeing itself?
이렇게
Type of scene.
Path of seeing, right? Not uninterrupted path. Yeah.
오케이? 그럼 보시면 뭐야? 마예자탄 돈어도 대바징에서 돈이 한번 해왔어. 돈이 돼 열어봤어.
So the path of seeing does see the four truths perceptually, right? Or directly.
그거. 다 돈을 받지 말라고 다시 나오잖아데 단 가세. 여자 지금 돈 여자 지금 다시 나오는데 다시 대야. 공대는 못 왔어.
If we say, this is the etymology of the uninterrupted path, the path of seeing, then we can say, oh, it doesn't really fit there, right?
다 세다 다시가 되나. 다 저도 말해서 근데 감각하게 다 쇼스스 하고 와서
빠지면,
같이 저도 가는 빠지면 선다는데
먼저 빠지면 괜찮죠.
아는데 빠지면 그치려. 어떻게?
네.
어떻게 다른데 빠지면 다시 말다 하는데 저도 시당 통로 다시 해도서
So of course the question was, does the uninterrupted path, the minor path of seeing, sees the true suffering directly, right? And of course, for that you can say no, but for the path of seeing, just the path of seeing, does the path of seeing sees the four truths, or like true suffering perception
Directly. Yeah,
directly?
그래와.
Yes.
따라서 와서 그래서 저도 여여이나다 말래 따라해서
So it would be correct to say no for the uninterrupted path, but it would to say yes for the path of seeing.
So why is there a distinction between? Isn't the uninterrupted path still the path of seeing?
Yes. Right.
이네.
So uninterrupted path of seeing, and uninterrupted path of seeing is path of seeing, but if it is a path of seeing, it's not necessary to be uninterrupted path of, uninterrupted path of seeing.
그래서
On the,
돈하고 이해와라. 돈하고 이해와.
Yeah, so the uninterrupted part of the path of seeing is the division of the path of seeing, right?
but do they do see the four truths directly on uninterrupted path, right?
무슨 통과를 했어?
그래.
마지막에
가지고
멤버십이 또 멤버십 무슨 통과를 했어?
마지막으로 또 말해. 마지막으로 말해야지.
uninterrupted part doesn't see that.
Is it the path of release that does?
돈은 제도
남들한테 통과를 했어.
나도 또 말해. 대신에 난 좋아하시라고.
Yeah, they both are meditative equipoise, so they both don't realize that.
So it's the path that's neither of those?
그러니까 이 말을 들어요.
제도식 또 그러고. 제도식.
So it's the subsequent realization, what do you call that? Subsequent attainment. The subsequent attainment or the wisdom during the post-meditative equipoise, it realizes that.
Oh, so during the post-meditation you realize it?
Yeah, it realizes that.
그래서 돈하고 이해와는 돈하고 이거로.
So if it is the division of the path of seeing, then it has to be path of seeing, right? If it is division of the path of seeing, then it has to be path of seeing, right?
미이해와는 뭐그 미이거래. 미이해와는 미이거래. 미이해와 가서나.
If it is the division of human being, is it necessary to be human being?
하면 미이해와 가서나.
How many divisions are there to human being? 3?
There are 3. There's a
Okay,
male
okay.
and female and neuter, right? Tudam, money.
I think you could say American or European.
Yeah, he's right, you know. That minute that proves you know. Yeah, this, you know, usually sometimes it doesn't take much, you know, anything there.
What do you call money? Neuter?
Money, yeah, neuter.
Neuter.
Or, I don't know, what do we call the hermaphrodite? Yeah, or
What?
hermaphrodite maybe, or...
money 내가 세만 니자이거든. 니자이거든.
Actually, I heard I've read some Tibetan texts, there are 14 different types of money, so it depends how you divide. Even money has some divisions, so...
벌 먹는 생각, 이만 이해하면 되나?
Yeah.
I don't know, yeah.
So neuter is what, the one who has both organs, of the male and female? Or?
Neither, it should be neither.
Is it neither or?
Yeah,
There are some cases in both.
this is the problem.
Some cases both and some cases
Yeah.
neither.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe that's 4.
So
Yeah,
I think you have to subdivide the third category.
yeah.
You have men and women and what's not men and women. It's like in the path of seeing, there is
None
the...
of those two.
Yeah, there is the path...
Male, female, and none of those two.
There is the same in path of seeing, right? There is the uninterrupted path, the path of release, and then what is neither of those.
Neither of those two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, so it's kind of the same. You can just make free.
This one, you know. What it is, 다 대망이 들어. 다 내가 대망에 들어서 달라져가지고 돈호세까지는 다 대망에서 통일하다 다 돈호세가 있어. 오늘 대망에 들어서는 다 대망은 다 돈이고 다 남의 거라. 싸도 또 있는 거지 남자 대대지 그랬어.
And there is a reason for referring to it as a clear realization of truth. The reason it is referred to in this way is because it is the path during which truth is perceptually or directly newly realized.
되지. 다 내일 가지 돈호대 다 동반이고 남의 거라지 땅에 싸도 또 있는 거지 남자 왔어.
So the path of seeing, is the path, that first, sees or realizes the emptiness or selflessness directly, right?
어디지? 다 대전이 권하다고지. 전화 권하시기 전에 대방에서 또든지 저 고마시기 내까지 남지 대다지 그랬어.
And there's a reason for referring to a subject like the Mahayana path of meditation as the subsequent clear realization. The reason it is referred to in this way is because it is a path during which one familiarizes oneself with the continuation of that previous perceptual realization of truth.
대답하면 다가는 돈하고 내가 또 써버려고. 다 양내지.
So during the path of seeing, you perceptually or newly realize it, right? Newly realize it for the first time and freshly. And then during the path of meditation, you are meditating on that which you have already realized, right? So you are not realizing for the first time. It's not a new realization. And says there's a reason for referring to the subject, the exalted of an arhat as a path of noble learning. The reason it is referred to in this way is because it is a path which it would be suitable for those with attachment to prostate to, and which has already abandoned the afflictive obscurations. And so that which is suitable for those with attachment like ourselves, right? Attachment to prostrate. So, those beings like ourselves with attachment, it's all right for us to make prostration to the arhats, right? And which has already abandoned the afflictive obscurations. And so the afflictive obstruction or obscuration is one of the final abandonment of the one of the three vehicles, right?
Okay.
So the fifth is the mode of production. It says that. And so, production of when such and such path is generated in your mind, it's about that. The attainment of the small level of the hero's path of accumulation is marked by that time in which the uncontracted intention definitely to emerge is produced in the continuum of a person who for the time being is definite in the lineage of a hero. And so whenever one has generated that thought or intention definitely to emerge in one's mind, emerge from the sight incident, then one has generated renunciation, right? Or enter into the path. And then the middle level of is produced in that continuum subsequent to that, and then the third level is produced in that continuum subsequent to that whenever one has completed the accumulation of merit that is required for one to reach that level. So that less at that time, the person on the path of accumulation has realized emptiness or selflessness, and and so whenever one develops the special insight into that realization of the selflessness or emptiness, and then one moves up or transfers up to the path of preparation. The special insight, is a kind of wisdom, right? It's a type of wisdom that analyzes on the object, So during the path of preparation, path of accumulation, one is meditating on that the topic on emptiness or selflessness, and then whenever you develop that analytical wisdom, or the wisdom arising from analyzing that object, the topic, then you transfer up to the path of preparation. So the special insight, so it's not just an insight, but special insight. So as it has that meaning of having more insight into the object than what you already know or have insight into that object. And so during the path of accumulation, you have some insight into that object, but then when you develop more insight by analyzing that object thoroughly, and at that time, then that wisdom becomes a special insight, and that is when you move up to the path of preparation. And then there's the path of preparation, right? The next one is the path of preparation. The path of preparation has 14 levels, and so how do you, reach the certain level, the heat level, the peak level, forbearance, and then the supermundane level, right? So the attainment of the heat level of the hearer's path of preparation is marked by that time in which the hearer who abides on the great level of the hearer's path of preparation, and for the time being is certain in her lineage type as the hearer, attains instead of looking the selfness of a person. The peak level of the hearer path of preparation is produced subsequent to that, and then the forbearance level of the path of preparation is produced subsequent to that. Subsequent to that, in supermundane quality, the antidote path of the hearer's path of seeing and the path of release of the hearer's path of seeing are produced in a single session of meditative equipoise. So what does it mean by the single session of meditative equipoise?
Okay.
You know that?
The single session?
Yeah.
When one enters it without coming out without going into post-meditation, that whole time that they're in meditative equipoise. However long.
So the supramundane quality level of the path of preparation goes into meditation on emptiness, right? So it's still meditating. And then the moment it realizes emptiness directly, through that meditation, the moment it realizes emptiness directly, that time, then one moves up to the path of seeing. And so that would be the first part of the path of seeing, right? Which is the uninterrupted part of the path of seeing, and so which applies the antidote to the obstruction to be abandoned at that time, and then whenever that obstruction is abandoned, then you achieve the path of release of the path of seeing. And then only after that, then you come back in, arise into a post-meditative equipoise. And so it's like it will be same as saying, tonight you go to sleep and then you don't wake up until next morning.
Do you guys wake up at night time? 3-4 times?
Yeah.
Sometimes I didn't wake up, I guess. But then, yeah.
So I have a question. this is saying that the final path of preparation and the uninterrupted path and the path of release of the path of seeing all happen within one session.
Yes.
So why do we get to divide the final path of the path of preparation from the path that came before that? Like, do you know what I mean? So it means like you could be in the, what is it, before Chuchok is the Semo, yeah, the peak, the peak or the patience or whatever. Like, why do we get to divide that? Does it mean like once you have forbearance or whatever, you can stand up and leave the meditative session, and when you come back, you will immediately enter the supreme Dharma or whatever, how we translate it, ultimate Dharma?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm just curious, like it seems arbitrary that we just make a division there.
Mm-hmm. So you were saying that, from the forbearances you live and then you enter into the supermundane quality path, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, so it says here, like each one of them kind of is setting up the next one that comes after it.
Yes.
So I'm just curious why we get to divide these two and say like, well, you can leave the meditative session, this one, but the other one, like the supreme Dharma or whatever, supermundane Dharma, you can just sit down once and enter directly into that without being left in the state of whatever is before it, patience or the peak or whatever it's called. Do you know what I mean? So once you finish the session of peak, forbearance.
Yeah.
Once you finish the session where you achieve forbearance, then when you sit down again to enter into a meditative absorption, you're automatically in the highest supermundane Dharma.
다들 초도요, 초도 스무스들아, 뒤에서 또 말씀하면 여 가진 여 채워겠어. 가서는 다 그런 서백값으로 서백값을 거들에 그 공작 검열이면 마한테 한테는 초도야 주도 되는데 그거 나서라다 때는 대신 돌아가기에다 발심이라는 거는 상호 텐줄 털고 걸었어. 한테 이제 그 여 가진 여 채워겠어.
이거 정말 그래.
저랑
뭐 단단히 인테기 전화이나 전화 치료 친구들이 대답이 좀 맞춰요. 다 주시고. 와.
내가 더더더더 이제 수치를 좀 봐라. 이제 수치를 가르치는데 또 제일 맞지기는 그 저랑 마찬가지다. 내 참아되는 더라면 샤샤리 됐어.
막 되게 야 가르나 전화변했다. 제 모습을 와. 제발로 주셔와야나. 근데 제가 되게 양 통하고 이제 얘네 셰트가 동반이 되다 봐. 휴치 먹고 똑똑해서 말. 디바라야 제대로 드셔. 총무사. 가진다 이제 통화야 휴 정도. 들려 자고. 대전화 내가 다 가려 갖고 노쇼 냐면 휴치 먹어도 말했어.
So during the path, the supermundane qualities level of the path of preparation, that the duration there is very, very short. It's like just for a few seconds, and then you realize emptiness directly. The moment, and then whenever you realize emptiness, so it's like, so that division is just before you realize emptiness directly. Let's say if we still talk about the emptiness, just before you realize emptiness directly, and so there's like, where your mind is so ready, it should be only like few minutes, few seconds, before you realize emptiness directly. So that level, that period is called the supermundane quality of the supermundane quality level. And so, so during the forbearance, you still have to do a lot. And so it cannot be a substantial cost for the wisdom realizing emptiness directly. And so the substantial cost for the wisdom realizing emptiness directly is the wisdom that is almost about to realize emptiness directly.
So the name, we give the name actually.
That's right, yeah.
Just to that moment that precedes the... Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
맨날 가서 단내내 야래 그래. 단내내
토럼 샤야만 가서 그것도 것도 알고.
돈이 또 말. 다 데리고 전화 치는 돈이 가서 난또 봐야 타고 전화 받아 쳐서 그래.
And so you can be in meditation for a long time, right? And then until you reach that level, when you're almost about to realize emptiness directly, you will never be on the supermundane quality.
Right, yeah, I got it.
Only when you are almost in that, in that position, then you kind of enter into the supramental quality level of path preparation.
So
And that time, because you have not realized, you're almost realizing, but like only a few moments before you realize something directly. And because you have not realized it, even though it's very, a few moments, because you have not realized it, and not realized emptiness directly, therefore you are not part of seeing. So it has to be part of preparation. So it has to be the division of the part of preparation.
So the reason we don't have an endless regression, like going backwards down the list, is because you don't necessarily have to have been doing a session of meditation in the stage of tolerance.
Yeah.
You can sit down and immediately be just ready.
Yeah,
and
that's
then,
right.
Okay. Otherwise, you would have to say like the immediately preceding cause of the highest supramundane dharma is the tolerance
That's
on the
right.
path, and then the immediate cause of that is this, and then you would have, everything has to be connected.
It's connected, yeah.
세당 총나도 전원이 시당 다 제일부터 예사를 봤으니까 같이 장면서 좀 담보대 소중히 가서 이거.
So of course, yeah. So during even in the part of preparation, you might, and it depends on individuals, right? So it might take a long time. It says that among the three countless great yawns, the first countless great yawns merit is accumulated during the part of preparation and part of accumulation. So even though it seems like very short, but sounds like very short, but it could be very long also.
So that supramundane dharma,
That is the one
it's
is
like
short.
the culmination of all of the merits.
That's right, yeah.
Like, 1 second.
1 second.
저도 공작해 봤어요. 저도 공작을 하는 시까지 공. 가능해서 공작을 자식 빼나. 그래 딱 너도 지금 소실하고 연나 지금 끊고 공부해도 대상은 다르다 지금 삼삼 지금 소술로라 지금 세우라 이것도 왔어. 되려고 이제 또 많이 공부 또 많이 땅에서 봐. 또 어느 다 고통을 받는 거야.
And so, when you're meditating, like say, for example, we all try to meditate on some kind of object, right? So we just visualize, take a statue of a Buddha, and then try to, have the clear vision of that statue. And first when we try, it will not be clear, and then we try again, and then try again, and then try again, and after a couple of times, then it becomes more clear. And then as you get used to it, then it becomes clearer and clearer. And so the realization of emptiness is just like that, So when you are able to focus on the object without any distractions, so like seeing the real thing, with your bare eyes, at that time, then you have really, been able to meditate on that object very, without any distraction. So just like that, emptiness, the realization of emptiness becomes clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer as you meditate more and more. And then when it becomes like, so real to you, that's when you come to realize emptiness directly.
나도 두만이라고 공부나 지금 개래고 다 내가 지금 말해서 썸대한 거지 이생도 고라고입니다. 저도
So when we're meditating, what are we thinking? We're thinking that it doesn't exist from its own side, right? We're just thinking like that, but do we, gain any other understanding other than not exist from its own side? Other than thinking not exist from its own side?
Not right. If you think about maybe this camera, you can check the camera. Oh, this is a real camera, we understand it. Oh, yeah, real camera. Then we just check this copy. Oh, this is a camera. Just we think of a camera. Look like that. We think about everything does not exist on their side. Just we think that, but
so that experience of thinking that it doesn't really exist from its own side, cannot be generated, right?
Do you guys check emptiness? Meditation emptiness? Everybody think how you meditation emptiness.
Meditate on emptiness.
Meditate on emptiness. How?
How do you meditate?
Take the cup and empty it out, and then see the empty cup.
I first search for the I, the self. Like in Shantidev's guide, you search all the body parts for where self is, and you just continually search for it.
So that's how you, the way you meditate on it, right? How you analyze it.
서로 가르치는 거예요.
So what do you think when you're meditating on emptiness? What do you think?
Everybody do meditation.
I try to think that things don't exist from their own side, but
Okay.
I still grasp strongly at it. So then I analyze what it is I'm grasping at. So I try to search like from head to toe, what self I'm grasping at. I search all the body parts, all those things. I'm investigating where the I is.
Yeah, that's it.
들으러 따로 가지 마시. 다 마음 강사해야 돼. 다는 저거 말해. 맞으면 가든가 전부 저봐야나 파트는 얘거든. 다들 얘기 되면 다 들으나 땅도 소매라고 넣어서. 들어.
Yeah, so we can think that the things do not exist from their own side. If they exist from their own side, then we should be able to find it. But if we search for it, we will not be able to hold on to it. And so therefore, it doesn't exist from its own side.
네 값에 코샬로 남자 도도 파트 루치다 자서는 것도 값도 받아야 버스. 한번은 또 샤트 값을 호트 값을 남트 값을 내 값을 값 냐고 잘도.
So these things called cup, right? So the many parts together, you put it together, parts from different direction, and you put together, and it's called cup. But if you look for the cup, which one is the cup? Is the eastern part or the western part or the top or the bottom? Which one is the cup? If you try to look for that, then you will not find cup, right?
어떤지다 강사 대마 처음 말했어. 최대로 대마 처음 말했어. 남기저 요말 세대마 다 마음이 요말라 정말라 단일이 요말라고 말때 저도 가디나서를 제거했어.
So nothing exists from their own side, right? So everything is empty. When it says empty or doesn't exist, doesn't mean it doesn't exist conventionally or nominally. Right?
며칠기로와 완전 무식이 저도 조선 나비에게 있어. 다 최단지 요말라고 왔어. 근데 나도 뭐 가봤어요. 먼저 돈도 이거 저도 매일 가려고 저도 그러라고 그러고.
So some people say that if someone says, you Buddhists, say that nothing exists, none of the phenomena exist, but while people, while these people are existing, what do you mean by that they don't exist? While seeing all these people, going around here, eating, drinking, and so forth, what do you mean by they don't exist? And what would you say?
다 kontrol하면서 내 말좀 듣는 것도 더 말해. 남들 때려지. 하면 내 말좀 듣는 거 갈라서 대가라. 대신이 받아 왔어.
So if you tell them they don't exist truly, then they wouldn't understand that either. Right? So how doesn't it exist truly, or how don't they exist truly? You have to explain that again, right? You have to give the second explanation.
We have to give very short answer.
Yes.
Right? And what we give? Short answer that let go change was.
So that will be adequate. A short answer that will be adequate. What will that be?
Independently.
한국에서 대학 가는 곳에 말씀까지 제가 나라처럼 나오는 저런 말이라고 그랬어. 나라처럼 나오는지.
Yeah, maybe they might not understand that either. But if you tell them, they don't exist in a way they appear to us.
대도대도 가는 나도 가는 거다. 나도 지 싫어봐 나막 샤시고 가면 나도 집어러 왔어.
And so, everything that appears to us, right? They're all same in appearing to us, but they don't exist in a way they appear to us.
다 근데 저래. 나는 있잖아. 나도 가르치 난 거였나?
Then again, they might ask us, so if the things do not exist as they appear, then how do they appear?
다 빼차셔봐요. 알았어. 그게 못하게 놓았어. 가르치 나도 못하 도도시 그게 나는 놓았어.
So, for example, there's this solid car. The car seems to appear to us, right?
딱 그 도도시 그게 골로지 저리면서 딱 세워 나는 놓았어.
So it seems to appear solid from its own side, right?
근데 다 그게 가르치는데 제가 나는 저거를 왔었나? 다 가르쳐는 다 봐더니 제가 다 가르는 골로당 강바당 뒤집어진다 저도 가가 파시는 다 car 투삼에 잡는 거죠.
So the car, if it exists, truly, or as it appears, like solid to us, then you should be able to point at, right? Then you can analyze, which one is the car, the solid car that you see, that appear to you. Where is that solid car? Then you can point at the wheels, the tires, the body, the wheels, and everything. So you can point and say which is the car, the solid car that appear to you.
남중 스치 데리고 섬주 땅겨 말 가지 저거 게임을 가지 좀 좋아 가지 저거 스치 섬주 땅겨 말죠.
So normally we don't think, how do they exist, how the car exists, and how the man exists, how the woman exists, and so forth.
내전에 봤으면 봐줘도 보고 또 많이 사그려 왔습니다. 아니면 다 하는 저의 말하는 고소 고소 말와.
And so if you say that way, then the other person will have some doubts, thoughts, right? Otherwise, if you say they don't exist from their own side, they might not understand.
Then maybe a joke, maybe if some male ask him to. 저는 게임을 가리는 거죠. 저는 게임을 간다랬어.
And then you can joke to a male person, that says, how do your wife appear to you? And which one is your wife?
저는 게임을 수번 저는 게임을 말하고 왔어.
Your wife's body is not your wife, right?
뭐 게임을 좀 말하고 왔어. 뭐 말하고.
Your wife's body is not even a wife, right? Not even a human being. Right?
아니 샘도 말하고 왔어.
What about her mind? Her mind is not her, right?
마티한 통통만 잡아가지고 통 말하고 왔어.
So your mind, her mind you cannot even see. So how will you be attached to that, right?
대지 파레에서는 대부분 굉장히 좋아서 도발 잘하고 왔어.
So if you analyze in that way, one by one, then then they might think, oh, that's really strange, and start to have some doubt, right?
Right? Otherwise you say, oh, not exist all in the time. What are you talking about? 대지는 somewhere 지인이 가능한 판단하면 좀 상당한 걸로.
So if you and think it that way, one after another, then we will find something to think about, right?
Otherwise, 동기 얘기가 요 말한다, 나도 좀 말하고.
And otherwise, if we say, they don't exist while we can see them or we can touch them and so forth. If we say they don't exist, then they will think we're crazy, right?
보다 들려다고 간지 들려다고 지금 싸움 땅 거래. 아무튼 나도 저번 한번 영어를 봤어.
So I should think like that because sometimes we may have certain strange questions, right?
Sometimes also we'll have to explain to other people to we hide. Talk about emptiness. Then we turn on the participant, then they say,
So sometimes we kind of show off or boast ourselves by trying to explain it and by talking about emptiness. But then if we don't know how to explain that, then we kind of fail ourselves.
Crazy too.
Crazy, yeah.
근데 가지고 다 이거만 가지라는 저 말을 다 그런 저 이거만 어떻게 해야 되는지 내려다 나도 지는 이거 발라마지나 아니 소소도 kubaz을 쳐라고.
So if you just insist yourself in saying that it doesn't exist from their own side, then otherwise if you don't know how to explain clearly one after another, then you kind of become like a stupid bear.
이것도 이거 남주 뭐만 채지 동반이 반드시 장애라 내가 오시라 이래 봐서 닝애라 티콜 닝 단이야는 거운 보이래서 나 시행은 야고 시행 맞나 아니 닝이 다 칠 거야 뭐 저러 시행이 거나 뭐 부르려.
So people like to talk about emptiness, they like to listen about emptiness, but if the person who is trying to explain doesn't know about emptiness well himself, then he may appear like a very stupid person.
세당 단순체에 딱 냠뇨 정식 사무단에 소시에나 아니 지해야 봤어.
So of course, unless you have some kind of experience or realizations in yourself, then of course you will be able to explain very clearly.
마지막에 밀림체에 딱 많이 그 메시래야. 밀림체에 여자 누들라는 코치네 그 고아랑 말고 코밀체 땅이 말고.
So somebody who has never dreamed in the in the night when he or she was sleeping. If you explain to them about dream, they will never understand, right?
다 미는 다 영어지라 어떤 데 미는 데에서 거기서 어떤 데 미는 데에서 거기 영어를 와서
But someone who has dreamed, and then if you tell them about the dreams, then they will understand, right? Because they have dreamed.
이제다 식당으로 동반이 고서야 돼. 동반이라 빠니나 제가 좀 동반이라서 동반이게 지금 고하고 냠냠 때서 지금 영어지만 가지고니다 납총 말씀은 화 담소이 와서.
And also, it is one of the commitments in the tantra that if someone will not be a suitable person to understand about emptiness, then you should not explain to them. So those with a lesser wisdom will be deprived if they look into emptiness.
다들 오케이. 다들 내주는 영향 특징을 갖고서 영향 특징을 제거해서 냠바샤 때문에 찍혀서 냠바 특징이나.
So anyway, going back to the text, so those three parts, right, of the path, the supramental quality level of the path of preparation, and the uninterrupted part is the path of seeing, and then the path of release of the path of seeing. Those three are generated at the same session, in one single session.
내가 인데서 링이에 인데지 시험하는데 강사가 다면 이거 서로 토비 팀만 남 토바나 때 니들이 더 토바 니들이 때 니들이 더 토바 줬어.
And then this is the attainment of the hearer's path of seeing is marked by that time in which the hearer who abides on the level of supramental quality of the hearer's path of preparation and for the time being is certain in her lineage type as a hearer attains an exalted knower that newly perceptually realizes in a sapiens person.
다 된적인 일이 통하디 강사가 다음에 또 공부할 때는 다 니저 현재 친구민이 남들이 이거는 더 먼저 말했어.
그래서 더 디콘디 그래서 연도기 그래서 리니어를
담보 내가 니들이 되는 거다 담은 되는 거라. 저는 치유적반이 강사디 강사가 다음에 뇌에서 싸도 도비 gemba 남 도바나 다 니들이 도바레스 다 니들 도바 받지 마셔서 말아. 대리디 니들이 도노디스 강사가 다음에 또 공부할 때는 다 공부네 니들 친구 인연 남 도바나 니들이 공부 도바죠 그래서 디 니들 남 봐와 디 니들 남 아비체 니들이 뭐라고 도바죠.
So when it says that supramental quality of the hearer's path of perception, preparation, and for the time being is certain in her lineage type as hearer, attains an exalted knower that newly perceptually realizes happiness to the person. That renunciation go on, renunciation chapter.
저도 니들도 너무 잘.
Yes, so you should. Here, when it says that certain in her lineage type as healer, you understand that part? Certain.
Yeah, they're on that path, right?
Yes. So actually, for healers, you don't have to have this, but for the soul realizers and the Mahayana, you can apply that in the sequence of being is in a certain in her lineage type as soul realizer. That means that means you enter into the soul realizer's vehicle from the beginning, without going through the healer's path. Right? For the healers, that's the first one, so you can't go through others, and then go through them, and then attend that, right? But for the soul realizers, you can go through the healers, and then for the Mahayana, you can go through healers, or you can also go through the soul realizers. So Mahayana, who enters into the Mahayana vehicle from the beginning without going through that would be this one here. This is being asserted in her lineage type as the Mahayana, things like that. Okay, so that is the path of seeing, and then the next one it says, following that in the next paragraph, it says the attainment of the hearer's path of meditation is marked by that time in which a person on such a hearer path of seeing, independent upon their familiarity with the previous realization of the selflessness of the person, attains the actual antidote to the great afflictive obscurations. Then there's an attainment of the hero's path of normal learning is posited as that time in which they have abandoned the afflictive obscurations. Those that can be extended to the true solitary others. So we'll stop here for tonight. Do you have any questions?
Just one short question. Is it possible that somebody who hasn't entered any paths, they have no realizations, they're just a regular person, but like a practitioner, but they meditate on emptiness, like we just described? And is it possible that when they're in that equipoise meditating, just meditating on that understanding, that they could have some kind of experience of emptiness, even though they haven't realized it? Is it possible to have a very temporary, fleeting experience of it?
냠냠 톱시그라스 남로 마셔가지 돈이 맞아가지 남로 마셔가야 돈이 다 알아서 지나면서 밑주말 거만하지 건물에 돈이 녀왔던 토이라스 녀녀야라스
되게 대단한 녀와서 못하죠.
Yeah, you can call that experience.
Yeah,
you have some, a gross understanding about emptiness, and then you meditate based on that. And of course, yeah, I think you can get some experiences. So first you gain the experience, and then after that you come to realize it. So yeah, first you gain some experience, and then come to understand. Realize it. Right? So before that, you have to have some understanding, right? Not a deep understanding, but just superficial understanding at least. Yeah.
Even if they're not on any path of accumulation, not just a regular person.
Yeah, not necessarily. You can even realize, not even just have the experience, but even realize emptiness. Even realize emptiness before you enter into a path.
I see.
And so this, what is that? How did they translate that part? Is certain in her lineage type as the Mahayana. That's interesting. And being certain in her lineage type as the Mahayana. So that means like we have entered into the Mahayana path from the beginning. And so that kind of bodhisattva, bodhisattva or sharp faculty bodhisattva like that kind of bodhisattva who is sharp faculty would realize emptiness before he or she enters into the Mahayana path, or even realize, or even generous bodhicitta. So they first realize emptiness, and then they generate bodhicitta. So that will be the sharp faculty bodhisattva.
Okay.
Thank you. I have one basic question. I just was wondering if you can refresh, maybe all of us, myself in particular, the reason why we study this text. Just for my own purposes, because I like the text, but I often wonder, like, why do we study this though? Like, why are we studying it?
So you can go and talk about it to people.
Yeah, but see, it only drives other people crazy. It's better to know for myself, like, why am I, just for, the sake of fitting it into the overall project of Dharma.
So because it explains about all the paths that we have to meditate on in order to achieve liberation or enlightenment. So the path that we have to meditate on, if we don't know about that path, we will not be able to meditate on it, right?
근데 아직 배나 영어 맞으면은 돈을 거고서 돈으로 검대는데 깨도 말았어. 띵게는 만 가르쳐 담보 가르고 된이바 같은데 가르고 자동으로 담보 로저죠.
So if you don't know about this, the right sequence, then you might not be able to generate the later realization. Right? So if you want to gain the realization of part of seeing, then first you have to meditate on the path of preparation, or you have to gain the realization of path of preparation, the path of accumulation. Without that, there is no way. So if you keep on meditating on the path of seeing, you will never be able to generate path of seeing. Then of course, you will never have the path of preparation and so forth. So this also, helps you to understand the right sequence of the paths.
And then on those, that's how you want to young Pojam Pongo is. And no matter what she did, then you no matter what she said, Lam did the color deponger, Lam did the color deponger.
And then also we have to abandon all these obstructions or obscurations, right, in order to achieve enlightenment. And then we have to know, when we have to abandon this, and what kind of antidotes we should apply, and so forth. So, this gives us the knowledge to do that also.
But you know, Bala, and it's onion color. Onion to the Union Nation. So, what to do? Time Karaka and the chocolate to control what's the new model. That tell watching the new punk, and there that the digital new model, then the punk was another.
So explains about all these delusions, like the 6 primary delusions and the 20 secondary delusions. Explains about it, and it tells us exactly which one is delusion, which is not, and which are to be abandoned, and so forth.
And a moment of Royana, that draw there, that's done Kosajan there, they draw there, and element and they should, element and they should go down to take you.
So just like the armies are told who are our enemies and who are not, and what kind of weapons we should use to destroy what kind of enemy and so forth. So it's just like that.
What I tell you, I show you a low genre, that number I tell some say, she says, Kanari, Tenzugus. This was the Kanari was young, the young, that was also a
And also you gain knowledge, about how many, even if you don't gain the realizations yourself, but you see, at least you gain the knowledge about the paths, the grounds, and how many paths are there, how many grounds are there, and so forth.
Also, Chasara the Tambo did some, then they loading, then they thought, then they jumped out, then they finished. Then they son, then you took a lot of
So in the monasteries, first we study the collected topics, and then there's the mind and mental factor, and then about loading, tari. Then the science and the reasonings.
So,
So you study the tenets, the 4 tenets, and then the 70 topics, and then the paths and grounds. So those collected topics are like the key to open the brain or the wisdom. And so that reasonings and that wisdom we can carry on until we achieve enlightenment. The mind and mental factors, it's all about the mind and consciousness, so which we need, which we use, until we achieve enlightenment, right? So the science and the reasonings, it's all about the logics, right? So explaining to you why, such and such and such and such. And so there we have 3 objects, right? There's some objects that are obvious to us, and then objects that are slightly hidden, and then the objects that are extremely hidden. So the obvious ones, we don't need any reasonings or science, we can know it right away. Or the slightly hidden ones, then we can't see it, without their eyes, so therefore we need to apply reasons to prove them.
아니 실권이다 다 이체 다 뭐지 이체로.
The extremely hidden ones, those we can't even provide reasonings to prove them, and so mostly we just have to believe.
간지 려도를 박한 건 믿으나 다 이체잖아요.
So if there is no conflict, by the reasonings and by the scriptural supports, then we can believe on that.
근데 신바동을 하던 요즘 중화대 다 신도 공제에서 솔직히 또 말했어.
So it says, if you give, you become rich. The becoming rich is because of giving. That one, nobody can prove it, and you cannot provide a logical reasonings, science. You can't provide that. So, but you have to believe. You have to believe because that's Buddha said that, and that's why you have to believe it.
다 가나 되게 때 신도로 좀 지지되지라고 되지들 말로 신바동한테 로주 조세 때문에 말해. 다 때를 지어서 다 그랬어. 동행지 때문에 세면에 말이 주제 공지 때문에 제도 세면에 말 아니 신도 공지 때문에 가지 제탑에까지 지었음 가능도 말했을 때는 다 이체를 했어.
So it will not be conflicted by any of these three reasonings. So the obvious objects, which can be seen by the valid cognitions, right? The direct valid cognitions, like the eye consciousness and so forth. So the direct valid cognition doesn't conflict with that. And then the extreme, the slightly hidden phenomena, like which requires the science and the logics to understand it, that doesn't conflict with that, that scriptural support. And then the extremely hidden phenomena, which requires even not only which cannot be realized even by the reasonings, doesn't conflict with that either. So, and because of that, therefore, you can believe that scripture which says, from giving you get wealth, and from observing moralities you achieve the highest state of liberty.
대신 다 대자도 다 먼저 로건데 다는 로들이 다 리파다는 막 시대로서 시다 담로를 받이야 가는 그 오픈로지로 와디라는 거서 아니 다 리파 가는 거에 와도 로는 거 가져와 다 리파 가는 거에 지도 가서 빠리는 거 그러시 다 리파 가는 거 되네 준다 세지 모르고 다 준다 뭐 쉬었다 해서 고르도 리파로 담는데 가까워야 준다 되려고.
So you open your the wisdom on the mind, with the collected topics, you come to understand about all these things, right? Phenomena, the existence, non-existence, prominent, improminent things, so forth. With the collected topic, you understand that, so you kind of open the brain or the the mind, and then you see what kind of mind there are that have to be opened, and you learn about the mind and mental factors, and then with that mind, then you use use the science and logics to understand about things that are slightly hidden, and then that mind also then now talks about 4 different tenets, which has different views and different logics and so forth.
근데 대한도 시대에 와. 다 대한 시대에 다 나도 사마제 바래. 자상 남으로다. 다 남으로다. 철도를 빠진 걸로.
And then there comes the 70 topics, which is also about all the paths. Talks about the different paths when achieving enlightenment.
아니 제대로 나가 자리 다치 있을 거라고. 아니 제가 지시나 신앙 체상 세진 거 다까지.
So it talks about all these three, the basis, like the omniscience, and then the cognition, what's the recognition or knowledge of the path, and then knowledge of the basis and so forth.
그냥 원하다들이 지금 남도 들이오는 원하다 남자에 가르치고 그래. 사자에 가르치래. 대남도 토바라 받으시고 더 가르치는 안에 사람 세지 딱 그런 거로.
And so in order to achieve that, the know of the path, know of the basis and so forth, you have to know about all these different paths. So what paths do you have to study to understand these?
Look at that. Then study more.
That was not a simple question.
No, that was a good answer. That was a good answer. We need education.
그래서 나도 투바에 배 공부하되 라파명이 처음부터 집었어요. 나도 뭐니다 로조제 계속 실증이 왔어요.
So yeah, it is very important to study. You know, without study, you cannot practice or meditate. You'll be just like a crippled person trying to climb a mountain. So someone without a hand trying to climb a mountain. So someone who haven't studied, you know, when you try to do practice, you know, all you can do is recite Om Mani Padme Hum. You will not be able to meditate, right? So there are some people who go up in the mountains in Dharmasalas to practice, and they go there and they couldn't stand. They cannot stand for more than a month or two, and then they come out and then they disrobe or they get married and then they go through all these problems. And that's the reason. It's because they haven't studied. And they didn't study. They just went out there and they're by themselves and they don't know what to do. And then they get, they go crazy and then they come down. So that's the reason, because that's why they didn't study. So studying is very important. So some people, their mind becomes more and more harsh as they meditate more and more. That shows that they're not properly meditating. They don't know how to meditate. So some people, they tell you that they have done 3 years and 3 months and 3 days retreat at the first meeting. They don't even know you very well, but then they tell you these things. That shows that they are very arrogant. And so, so if that is what they have gained, from doing meditation for 3 years, 3 days, 3 months, then that's not a very good sign, right? So they don't have to tell if they have that, if they have done that, then from their behavior, from their the way that they think, way they talk, way they interact with people, will show that. So it's just it could be because the way the way people expose themselves or interact with people. Like in America, you have to tell people what you do and what you have done and so forth. So they think it's it's the correct way to do it. But in Tibetan way, maybe it's not correct to tell that. So maybe maybe the American people way of doing is correct in their way. So.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Look at that. Now we stop. Okay. Thank you.
Page 39.